High grade Build Gundam Mk-II.
Hey, what's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs2Bs, Gundam Reviews.net, here to take a look at the individual parts for this Build Gundam Mk-II, which is all built. The colorful empty plates are going to lead to the body parts that you'd expect there, every limb in place, and then for weapons, you're going to have all the regular ones from the Mk-II, including that old school beam saber attached to the hand, everything up there for the Vulcans on the head. The seals, you'll notice that there's a yellow one still left on there, and there it is, the big backpack that's going to help set this guy apart. Not to mention the fact that there's going to be these 6 or so old pieces that are omitted to make this into the Build Mk-II as opposed to the regular Mk-II. And as the leftover seals attest there, I've still got the yellow for the V-fins as I decided not to go totally lazy with some Mr. Base White and then some Mr. Color. This is a number 4 yellow. And of course you'll notice that it's also not quite the right yellow if you want to stack it up compared to other Gunpla. Bottom to top, it's fun to put this kind of old kit together for me just to see how much progress has been made over the last decade. Bottom of the feet looking pretty simple, and you'll notice that the toes are going to be moving there. You can see the ankle is going to shift well side to side, and front to back though, and you'll see it's just on a single poly cap there. The yellow vents are looking good on the inside. I decided not to do any edging, keeping this pretty plain. Down below, just a little bit of black on there. And for the old school knee, this isn't going to be the cloth piping that we're used to on the Master Grade Mk-II. But look at that, 30 degrees, and you're just going to get barely over 90 with old school, not that posable hips, which are going to be attaching on here in the old school way. You can also see some nice black lining opportunities there. Very simple on the front, but still looking good. Some very deep channels there, so you'll see that I've just got a little bit of black in the bottom. Could have gone in there with some actual ink. The side skirts are going to be simple. They're big in the back over there, and you can see that some black lining options. Could have gone for the top as well, with a little bit of lining back there. The rear skirt doesn't move, and this front one feels quite loose, and you can see that there's not going to be much there for the waist mobility, as was the style at the time. As you can see, it's just going to rotate around. But this is where things start to get interesting. First of all, I gotta say that it's a very interesting look here because you've got that jutted out cockpit hatch over there. It's just going to be quite interesting compared to the old one for whatever reason. And the yellow parts. You saw that I went for the yellow paint on the V-fin. Decided not to do it down here because it would have been a lot more taping. This actual blue part here is one piece, the yellow and the blue. And Bandai designed the seal. Yes, it's a little bit awkward to put it on and it looks a little ugly when you go in with a close zoom on the side. But otherwise, it's the right matching yellow there for the neck piece, which is also simple without any lining options or anything. But if you're used to some nice clear green parts or some green seals, they're not going to be included. And for the shoulder mobility, you'll notice just a little bit up and down, front and back with a big old backpack attachment. But it's onto the arms now, where for a nice touch, you'll see a blue piece in there for the actual shoulder, and that's not seals. Yes, I'm looking at you, HGUC Nemo. That's actually yellow plastic. That's a nice touch there as well. Some little black tick marks you could add in. If you wanted to add a 178 or the like, you could. And what are you going to get for the arm? Just a straight old boring 90 there. Nothing's going to be looking particularly fancy. Some edging options, and you can put the shield there on either forearm. And the backpack is going to be nice and simple, yet cool looking. I'm a big fan of this blue. You'll see that the boosters are going to be moving around there, and there's that big empty poly cap, and that's just going to be asking to help add some even more. See, Destiny would be proud for these kind of backpacks that we're about to add on. You can see the attachment points, and I've always liked that the Mk-II is going to, even when you pull off the beam sabers, actually have something behind the head itself, even if it's going to be a little bit ugly because of those studs. And this will look good in hand. Remember, you get the regular beams for this. 2 of them, in fact, and they're quite long. If you can just hide those holes, that'll be no problem in the actual hand itself. But check this out. In terms of the length, they're going to be giving you this old school one. It's actually well crafted down there. The details in the hand are going to be impressive. But the fact is, it should be gray fingers, and they're not. And you've got the white back of the cover. And then you've got this part, which should be pink and clear, and it's not, which means this is going to get relegated to the old Ziploc. And I'm glad they at least give you the proper options. And the rest of the Mk-II's weapons are going to be here as you'd expect. The beam rifle looking good. Don't expect that pod to pop off on the bottom. And you'll notice that they chinsed out on all the green seals and things like that they could have put on there. Little bit of black lining is going to go and help, but it's nothing like having a white bazooka. And you'll see that you're going to have a little bit of mobility. 90 degrees there on the side of the BR. And what's this? A half shield. You've got the nice blue on top of the white there / gray there. And you can see the way that that's going to be plugging into what would be the eye holes for the great granddaddy. 2 little attachment points are going to plug that in solidly down there. Again, they cheap out on the traditional weaponry as they're not going to be giving you any yellow seals for that. These parts would detach on the master grade, they do not here. This part is just going to be pivoting around, and you can see how it would attach into the forearm down there with some lining options at the bottom. But completing the body, it's onto the head itself, which is actually going to be looking okay, although it is going to be a little bit dated definitely in the overall design. You've just got some very thin lining around the mouth if you want to get some black lines there. The nose is going to be okay, as is the red goatee, but on the sides I've just gone in there with a $2 lining marker, nothing fancy. Some little triangles etched in over there, but all the focus I think is going to be up on the top as it should be. So you've got this protruding chest, and then you're also going to have this big blue part up there encompassing the actual green seal, and that would be yellow seals all over that V-fin there, including being awkwardly bent down. So in this case, it would have been so much better if Bandai had just given us a proper yellow piece. As you'll notice that the Mr. Hobby 4 yellow that I use there is not going to be matching up with regular Gundam standards. At the same time, seeing this V-fin swept up like this is going to help set the Build Mk-II apart and give it sort of its own unique style, something they were able to accomplish with only a few simple modifications. And the dimples on the side of the head allow you to pop in these old school spocks over here. But if the body changes aren't enough, well, how about this? Overall, when you put it all together, I'm going to say that it's pretty pleasing to the eye. These parts here, they can be omitted, as you've got the gray parts in the back, the main fuselage there, the cockpit hatch is actually going to be looking okay, as that's a seal that's put all over the place. It's a mixed seal of silver and black. You can see, though, that they give you the yellow stickers here, so you'd think they could have given you the same thing for the shield and all those other little details that seem to be missing. But with the big guns coming forward here and a fair bit of color and some GP01 FB influence kinds of cones coming out there, it's actually not bad looking and the kind of thing you may want to display on its own. And here's the core block as it's got its attachment point. You're just going to be popping it out from here, and then you're also going to have these little parts which are going to detach and be quite useful when you want to put them onto the forearms. And that silver and black seal along with the yellow is going to add a nice little touch. I don't know if this is going to be worth displaying on its own though. And with the Brock ejected here, you're going to have the actual backpack. You'll notice, hey, why not add on more over there? But they didn't skip out with the green seals over there on the sides and on the actual back. And you'll notice one of the big problems is that you're going to have these parts here, which are weapon holders. They do not seem to be very convincing, though, in their ability to hold things on. And the way you attach these rifles on here is you'll notice that there's a little slit there on the side of the gray, and so you can go and slide that on. I'm hoping it's not going to cause any problems with gravity over time. For some other nice details though, you'll see that for these parts, they're actually going to lock in place. They're not just a rotate mechanism, as that little peg there is going to make sure that they stay in place. And when you bring them down here with the big guns actually attached in, they do seem to be fitting on fairly better here. And you are going to have some options at least with the rotating, but you're not going to have any crazy whooshing posing options that you might expect as you were dashing here and there in Gundam vs. Gundam. The forearm mount, however, is not just for the shield here, as you can take these blue parts there, pop this part up, and then once you've detached the weapons over there, you can put this inside. And with this part still down, you can take the whole thing, and you'll notice that those little pegs there are going to plug in. You can see where the beam rifle is going to be stuck in there, and overall, these are some pretty impressive under the forearm blasters looking here. Again, though, just not that convinced with the way that you're actually going to be attaching this part in and out of the actual blue things here. It just seems problematic with a lot of fiddling little details. And if you want to take the beam rifle Mk-IIs out of the hands, you can actually take this part and fold it up and turn these forearms things into shields. About as laughable as the V Gundams, as they are even smaller, protecting the back of the forearm. But overall, these weapons are going to be looking pretty good, and they've definitely got a more modern style to them. Although they definitely don't seem out of place next to their old school counterparts. Overall, this is a fun build, and of course at the very beginning you're going to have to decide how much seals and how much paint you want to go at this with. But for me, having never built the old school Mk-II, it's definitely showing its age, but it's still remarkably solid, and I think that's in no small part due to the good yellow pieces that are going to be all around there. I really do like the blue, and I am a big fan of the changes that they made. I think that cockpit hatch being extended there and the vents and everything, it just looks really good, and it feels like it has enough of a unique feel. And if that's not enough for you, well, how about the build booster? I'd say it actually looks good enough to display on its own, which is why you could buy it there. We'll have to see how it works as a backpack, as the weapons do seem to be looking good when they're in the underarm position, but otherwise there's a few sort of wonky attachment points that we'll have to see how it works in action. But overall, between a solid NMS and a very interesting, intriguing backpack, can't wait to see how it all works put together. So stick around, everybody. Please let me know what you think. What would you paint and what wouldn't you paint? Love to hear from you, and thanks for watching. See ya.
Say, building this and the review took way too long. I know, gotta cut down on the manga.